Hi guys, the Autistic Arborist here, coming to you from mid Wales. We've just been out on a clearing saw brushcutter job today at a golf course, clearing the bank down the side of the driving range so they can collect all the stray balls that go over the fence. Doing a mixture of small dead ash trees, dying ash trees with the clearing saw blade, bit of trimming and mostly shredding work on brambles. I just wanted to talk you through the new to me Stiga SBC656DX. I bought it new from Tom's Mowers and Garden Supplies, very helpful dealership. It's 52.8cc I think, full anti-vibration system on it, which is really nice. A couple of the other things I like about it, it's got the easy folding handlebars. It's also got a little hour meter and display meter on here which measures the RPM and logs all that. It's got an hour meter which tells you when you need to maintain the machine as well, and that works in conjunction. This machine's got EEM, which is electronic engine management. It's got a system on it. Basically what it does is it adjusts the ignition timing, and it also doesn't have a choke. The choke there isn't a choke on it. It goes through the there's a little electric valve on the bottom of the carburetor that pumps the diaphragm when it's cold. Which basically means it runs a lot better, starts easier. You don't have to mess about with the choke. It always starts first or second pull cold, and first pull always hot. A few things I like about it: it's got a really heavy duty shaft. A lot of these newer machines we're seeing now are coming with smaller shafts, 26-28mm diameter, and the sort of true clearing saw in sense was dying out a bit, and Stiga have brought this out. It's got a 30mm diameter shaft, the external diameter of the outer tube, with an 8mm solid steel drive shaft on the inside. The gearbox is a lot more heavy duty, and like I said, with the true clearing saw dying out, it was quite nice to see a system where the guard bolts onto the gearbox and not just on a little plastic clamp on the end of the shaft. Which is nice to see. It's more expensive by manufacturing things, but it's much better quality in my opinion, and makes the machine more versatile. Like I said, that's a Stiga clearing saw guard, which you can see the box for there, that fits this model, the SBC656DX. It also fits the SBC646DX, which is the same chassis but with a smaller cylinder. Comes with a 24 tooth clearing saw blade, pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure you've all seen one of them before. Pretty good blade. It's a bit hard for the first sharpen, but once you've got it sharpened the first time, it sharpens lovely. I mean, how cheap that is. I think it's about 25 quid for the blade and the guard. It's nice and cheap, but it's not, you know, there's no compromise on quality. That's a cast alloy guard, saw stop, for saw blades, 228mm, that one. It's got the max RPM sticker on it. What I also like about this, again, going on the clearing saw thing, I know I go on about that a lot. In my opinion, the sort of, not so much on the professional market, but on the semi-professional market, the clearing saw design has gone away from a lot of these machines, especially on some of the cheaper stuff. This is very well guarded. It's very smooth. There's no edges to catch anything on. On the underside of the machine, the fuel tank's heavily guarded as well, so there's no chance of puncturing the tank. It's all sort of streamlined. It doesn't catch on trees when you're using it as a clearing saw. Everything flows. You've got a normal throttle on it. It's got a safety interlock and a throttle. Non-return stop switch on the back there. The handles just fold up like so, and then loosen him a bit more, and he comes round. Tighten him back down again, he drops into place. Obviously you've got full movement through that range. If you want to use him for a shredder or a strimmer, you can adjust it as such. Pretty decent shaft length on them. If you're exceptionally tall, I'm 6 foot and it's fine for me, but I'd say someone who was 6'4", 6'5" might find it a little bit on the short side. Something to bear in mind. They don't yet do a short or long shaft version, but definitely something I'd like to see. Like I said, it's got the easy start system. It's 9.2 kilos and stated as 1.7 kilowatts, but I think it's got a bit more power than that. It's certainly got a lot more torque. It compares to some of the, in my opinion, power wise, now it's broken in. I've got 15.5 hours on it on the hour meter, and now it's broken in. It's really started to wake up. I'd say it definitely compares to, if not exceeds, some of the bigger main brands machines out there. Definitely compares to them. I'd say some of them it probably is better than. It's nice, it's got a greasable gearbox as well, and the locking pins on the top. Like I said, it's cast into the gearbox, it's tight, it's solid, unlike some of the cheaper machines where there's just a hole in the side there and it's just a cheap washer and it all bends easily. This is really well built. Guard's held on by 2 bolts, easy to swap over with an Allen key to your clearance saw guard. Probably the only downside I can think of with this machine, and something that annoys me, it's not necessarily essential to most people, but if you're using it on certain sites, or you've got a lot of health and safety inspections on your sites, the grass and flat blade guard that comes with it obviously isn't suitable for a shredder blade in the eyes of the book. Some of the other main brands have a shredder guard which is more of a vertical guard and it comes up a bit to protect the operator more. This is a very heavy guard. It does stop debris, it doesn't, but this doesn't comply in terms of health and safety for a shredder blade if you're using it on big sites, railway lines, things like that. So the only thing, if Stiga you're watching this, the only thing I think that could be done to make this a bit better, having only used it for 15 hours, it's done 15 hours and 37 minutes. Having used it for that amount of time, I'm exceptionally happy with the whole machine. The only thing I'd like to see is a bit more options on guards, in that it'd be nice to see a shredder blade guard to save smashing up the line guard, because they do take a beating. The shredder guard is much thicker. Of course, a big 4mm thick steel blade with turned down edges throwing bits about is a lot for a line guard to take. So it would be really nice to see a like I said, a shredder guard. Other than that, I don't think there's much else to it really. They rev out really well, they run really well, start really easily with the EEM system that Stiga have developed. The nice thing about their EEM system is that you're still manually adjusting the carb, which is a nice feature. Some people prefer that to the fully automated systems where you don't have any control over the adjustment of the carb, which is quite a nice feature. Like I said, I think it's a 5-point anti-vibration system, 2 bushings on the back, 2 springs in the front, and there's another damper in the middle, I believe. Makes the machine nice and springy. But that's one thing I observed with the clearance saw. Compared to one of the big name brands, it's much more stiff. Not that it lets vibration through, but I find the one name brand has quite a lot of play because it's got rubber mounts for the clearance saw, whereas this, having spring mounts, is much sturdier for use for the clearance saw. It doesn't make much difference when you're strimming or using the shredder, but when you're obviously pushing into trees, using the saw stop as a guide and things, that spring mount makes a bit of difference. I'd say I noticed a tiny bit more vibration than some of the name brands, but I wouldn't say it's anything major. It's definitely a comfortable to use all day machine. There's no doubt about that, but I'd say it does feel a bit more vibraty, but nothing that hurts, it doesn't shake your teeth out by any means. I'm very sensitive to vibration. I struggle with my right wrist and my left wrist. They lock up and I get really bad cramp. So I do have to be careful what machines I use. And this definitely, I'm not saying it's high on vibration, but I think it could also be the handles on these are quite big, and I've got very small hands. And with the throttle, I find you're sort of holding onto a throttle all day. I do find that my hand slips down the throttle. It's the only thing I find. But if you're a normal working bloke and you've got bigger hands, it's not going to affect you, but it's one of them. Primer bulb is the only thing you need to start this. Normally I do 6 or 8 primes, pull it and it goes first time. Comes with a spare air filter as well, and a 3-tooth blade and a line head. Runs 3mm line in the head, really nice head to be fair, not anything cheap. Made in Italy by Tecamet. But that's about all there is to it really, I think. That's about all there is to it. There's nothing else to say really. It's just a really simple, really effective machine. I really like it. I'd highly rate it. today at Landod Golf Course, doing a bit of a small site clearance on the back of the driving range. Bit of hedge trimming, some trees to come out, and some brush cutting and clearance saw work. I'm running my Stiga SBC656DX brush cutter clearing saw with a 3-in-1 shredder blade, all for one shredder blade from Oregon. We're cutting a bit of gorse and fern and stuff like that here, so you could possibly get away with a strimmer head and it would smush it quicker, but this, you don't lose downtime as much with this because obviously it doesn't wear down. So I'm just going to get on and show you how it does now. So if you've got either the Stiga 636, 646 or 656DX and you wish to clear heavier vegetation, you've got a few options. The machine itself comes with a tap and go line head, as seen here. It comes standard with a 3-arc cutting blade, which is pretty much standard for all trimmer brush cutters, like so. But if you want to clear heavier stuff or ground grown materials such as brambles, briars, stuff that grows along the ground, this kind of stuff, what you can get, Stiga don't do one at the minute, but Oregon do. It's called a shredder blade, and as you can see, it's like a normal blade, but the teeth on the end are bent down to give a ground cut action. So like I said, ground growing things like brambles and briars, it smashes them really well. This will smash anything up to about 3/4 inch, or what's that, 19mm, isn't it, 3/4 inch. But if you wish to do heavier vegetation again, up to even small trees up to sort of 2 inch in diameter, Stiga offer what is called the 24 tooth saw blade kit, which is for their brush cutters. It comes obviously in this box, shows you suitable 656, 646 series. I believe it will also fit the 636 model, but 36cc is slightly on the small side for a clearing saw. It comes with this blade, which is a 24 tooth clearing saw blade. The teeth almost look similar to chainsaws. They're bent out at opposites in angle, so you can see one's bent out, one's straight, and one's bent in the opposite direction. They're sharpened almost like chainsaw teeth, as you can see there. A 10-degree angle on the sharpen, again opposites to each other. So one side sharpened that way, one side sharpened that way, same as a chainsaw. Has one direction of rotation, obviously because the teeth only cut one way. Also in the kit you will receive the special guard for the clearing saw, because it's obviously very sharp. It's quite a dangerous piece of kit if you don't know what you're doing, and that guard is called a saw stop. It fits tight to the blade and helps arrest kickbacks and such. To change them over, you'll want to remove obviously the existing cutting unit you've got on the machine. So put your locking pin in. You shouldn't use a file because they're hardened and they can snap off, but someone's raiding my strimmer box, so it's all I've got here today. It's righty loose and lefty tighten because it's a left hand thread on the blade nut. So we'll just hold the locking pin in, and we'll take, it's a nylock nut, so you have to undo it with the spanner until it comes off the nylock, and then you can just spin it off by hand. The nut comes off, the bell washer comes off, and then the flat washer comes off in that order. You put them in the guard so you don't lose them. The blade you're using, or the head, your nylon line head comes off. You want to take those off there, and then underneath this side on the guard you can see it's held in by 2 bolts, the same as the guard for the nylon line head and the blade. To undo that you just need an Allen key. I can flip it over if you want, I'll just take that off. That's the locking washer that allows the head to lock the shaft. 2 Allen keys, hex bolts here, I think they're 5 or 6 mil. You just undo them, very easy. They'll go so far and then they'll stop because they're threaded into the nuts in the plastic guard. But when they stop, what it is they're captive. So you'll see they go loose, 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 and then they've come into the aluminium then of the gearbox, so you can stop. When they're new, they sometimes stop at the aluminium because the aluminium doesn't actually have a thread cut into it because it doesn't want to thread into the aluminium, it's catching into the guard underneath. That comes off, and the clearing saw guard just goes on. It can be a bit of a pain. I start one side off first, get it started. Make sure you don't cross thread it because they are steel bolts into an aluminium guard. I think it's aluminium, it's some kind of alloy, it's not steel, it's cast aluminium or cast alloy of some sort. Just tighten those up nice and tight. That'll pull the guard on. Make sure the guard is sat flat on the bracket of the guard and the gearbox on both sides, and make sure it's tight. As you can see, there shouldn't be any gap between there. The lower 2 mounting holes are because it comes with an adapter, which is in my toolbox here, and I believe that's for mounting on different machines. I'm not sure what machines, but it's for mounting on a different model. So then you can put your line guard to one side, flip the machine back up on the guard, your lock washer goes back on, absolute must. Don't forget that, it drops onto the spines on the shaft. Then your saw blade goes on right in so you can see it on the machine when you're using the machine. You can see how close the blade comes to the guard. That's what the saw stop does to help arrest kickbacks and protect you, the operator. Then the flat washer goes on, flat side down, with the angle on the top there, sits on. Then on goes your bell washer, and then your nut. Put that all on in that order, and then you just put your locking pin in, and again lefty tight and righty loose, and your locking pin will line up. I'm just going to have to sit up a bit. See what I'm doing. Again, holding the locking pin in underneath, tightening him up. Careful not to knock the blade off the anvil, or I suppose the shaft, or the little seat it sits on, because if this blade comes off centre, it will be extremely out of balance, it will vibrate a lot, and of course it will be dangerous. So snug that up nice and tight, because we don't want it coming off. That's what we most certainly don't want to happen. Make sure it's nice and tight, make sure it's clearance in the guard, and you're ready to go. We'll do a little demo on a small tree here. This is my first time using this blade. I don't know how sharp it is, so I'm not quite sure, but we'll see how it goes. Make sure when you start a clearing saw, the blade is clear at the ground or any obstructions, so that if it starts to spin when you start it, it doesn't take off. small face cut like you would with a chainsaw, and now we're going to do the back cut. The right side of the blade can kick very aggressively, which in some circumstances is a good thing. Cameraman, if you could step back so if it kicks, it doesn't take you out.